What has unfolded in the northern Indian Ocean over the past 24 hours represents one of the most serious setbacks for American undersea power in modern history. A U.S. Ohio-class nuclear ballistic missile submarine, one of America's most silent, lethal, and strategically vital stealth hunters, appears to have been ambushed and sunk. Hundreds of American sailors remain missing beneath the waves. At the same moment, there is no dramatic explosion caught on camera. No footage of burning wreckage lighting up the sea. No immediate rescue operations broadcast around the world. Just a deep, troubling silence and a sudden, shocking gap in one of America's most closely guarded lines of defense. This is not a minor incident. This is not a simple miscalculation. This is the kind of engagement that senior defense officials in Washington and Tel Aviv have long feared in their most serious contingency planning and now appears to be materializing in this rapidly developing situation. The submarine that was lost was not just any vessel. It was a cornerstone of America's nuclear deterrence and undersea superiority, a platform designed to operate undetected in the deepest parts of the ocean. And yet it was taken out in what military sources are describing as a perfectly timed and devastating ambush by a Russian-designed ghost submarine operating under Iranian coordination. Right now, in this rapidly developing situation, families of those sailors are still waiting for answers. Command centers in Washington are working with limited information, and the strategic implications are already sending shockwaves through the highest levels of the Pentagon and allied capitals. Stay with me because what comes next will reveal exactly how this ambush appears to have happened, why it was so devastating, and what it could mean for America's naval dominance, the Strait of Hormuz, and the rapidly shifting balance of power in the region. This is a development that demands our full attention. Tonight, we are going to break down exactly what happened and, more importantly, why it matters. I will answer 4 critical questions that are keeping senior defense officials in Washington and Tel Aviv awake right now. First, how did Iran, with Russian assistance, manage to locate and destroy a U.S. Ohio-class SSBN, a submarine designed to be nearly undetectable? Second, why would Iran dare to use a Russian Yasenem ghost submarine to strike an American nuclear submarine when the United States itself appears reluctant to directly engage that same vessel? Third, what made this ambush so devastating in technical and tactical terms? And fourth, what does this mean for the Strait of Hormuz, America's naval dominance, and the broader balance of power in the region? These are the questions being asked in classified briefings right now. If you want clear, straightforward analysis of one of the most serious developments we've seen in years, I encourage you to stay with me until the end. And if this situation concerns you as much as it concerns many Americans right now, please hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss important updates like this. So the big question is, how did Iran suddenly gain the ability to hunt and destroy one of America's most advanced nuclear ballistic missile submarines? The answer is not complicated, but it is very deliberate. This didn't happen by accident. It was built step by step over years of careful, calculated cooperation. It began with a simple but strategic trade. Russia was burning through resources in Ukraine and needed cheap, effective attack drones. Iran had them, the Shahed series, in massive numbers. Iran supplied thousands of these drones. In return, Russia started giving Iran something far more valuable than money: advanced military technology, training, and access to systems that were once strictly off-limits. That cooperation slowly moved from the air to the sea. In 2025 and 2026, Russia and Iran held several large joint naval exercises in the Indian Ocean and the Gulf of Oman exercises they called the Maritime Security Belt. What started as basic familiarization training gradually turned into full operational integration. Iranian naval crews were allowed aboard Russia's most advanced attack submarines, including the Yasenem class. They learned how to operate the boat's systems, how to navigate in deep water, and eventually how to handle the most sensitive engagement procedures. By the end of 2025, the two countries signed a quiet but extremely important agreement, what they referred to as a strategic partnership with joint operational control. Here's what that means in simple terms. The submarine still belongs to Russia. Russian officers stay on board and retain final authority over certain strategic systems. However, Iran now has its own highly trained crews who can operate the vessel and, in a declared crisis, can give the direct order to engage targets. In other words, Iran doesn't own the submarine, but it now holds the practical ability to use one of the world's most lethal attack submarines when the situation demands it. Why would Russia agree to share control of such a sensitive strategic asset? Because both nations see the United States as their common strategic rival. Russia provides the technology and expertise. Iran provides the location, the boldness, and the willingness to challenge American power directly in the Middle East. The timing of this move was also extremely clever. The United States was distracted by serious domestic political divisions, and Israel was tied down in multiple regional conflicts. Iran and Russia recognized this window of opportunity, and they used it. For months, American and Israeli intelligence watched the growing naval cooperation between Russia and Iran. But they underestimated how far and how fast it had actually gone. They thought it was still just training. They did not expect Iran to gain real operational control over a Russian Yasen-M attack submarine this quickly. But what they missed was the shift from training to operational integration. Not years, not even months. The transition happened faster than most intelligence models had predicted. And by the time they realized it, it was already too late. That miscalculation brings us to where we are today. Now let's talk about the weapon itself, because this is what makes the ambush so devastating and so difficult to defend against. The platform Iran used is the Russian Yasen-M, widely regarded by naval analysts as one of the quietest and most advanced attack submarines in the world today. It was designed from the ground up to hunt other submarines with extreme precision while remaining almost invisible to even the most sophisticated sonar systems. Its pump jet propulsion system, advanced acoustic quieting technology, and sophisticated stealth features make it a true ghost in the ocean, capable of moving through the deep at high speed with almost no detectable noise. But the real key to this ambush was not just the submarine. It was the timing, a perfectly exploited window of vulnerability that turned America's greatest strength into a momentary weakness. When the United States raised its nuclear alert level in response to the escalating crisis around the Strait of Hormuz, the Ohio-class SSBN was forced to increase its extremely low-frequency and very low-frequency ELF-VLF communications. These are the only signals powerful enough to reach a submarine operating deep underwater. In order to receive urgent orders, the submarine had to perform a series of precise and unavoidable maneuvers, changing depth, deploying its communications antenna, making sudden course corrections, and adjusting its position to optimize signal reception. For 3 to 5 critical minutes, a very short window in the vast expanse of the ocean, its acoustic signature increased noticeably. The sound of pumps adjusting ballast, the slight turbulence from the antenna deployment, and the momentary change in speed and direction all combined to create a detectable footprint that the Yasen-M had been patiently waiting for. That was the exact moment the ghost submarine struck. Already in position and using advanced Russian sonar systems integrated with Iran's growing underwater sensor network, the Yasen-M locked on. What followed was a meticulously executed ambush using high-speed supercavitating torpedoes and intelligent mines specifically engineered to defeat modern submarine defenses. The torpedoes were launched at close range, giving the American submarine almost no time to react, deploy countermeasures, or even begin evasive maneuvers. The entire engagement happened faster than most people can imagine in the silent darkness thousands of feet below the surface.
The corridors of power in Washington and Tel Aviv would prefer you never encounter. Tonight, we are standing at the edge of a moment that historians will mark as the dividing line between the world that was and the world that is becoming. What has unfolded in the waters of the Persian Gulf in the past 24 hours is not a skirmish, not a miscalculation, not an incident that diplomats can quietly manage back below the threshold of public consequence. It is the most catastrophic single loss of American naval power since the Second World War. And it was delivered not by a pure superpower with a blue water navy and a century of maritime doctrine, but by a nation that Washington spent decades dismissing as a regional irritant, manageable through sanctions and rhetoric. The USS Abraham Lincoln CVN-72, a Nimitz-class nuclear-powered aircraft carrier representing the absolute apex of American naval. engineering carrying 90 aircraft, a crew of nearly 6,000 souls, and the full symbolic weight of American global military dominance has been struck, catastrophically damaged and confirmed lost in the Persian Gulf following a coordinated Iranian ballistic missile assault of a scale and precision that has shattered every assumption the American military establishment held about what its adversaries could actually do. 1,500 Psy-OB ballistic missiles. The number alone deserves a moment of absolute stillness. Not a handful of missiles designed to demonstrate capability and signal resolve. Not a calibrated strike calculated to impose cost without crossing the threshold of existential challenge. 1,500 ballistic missiles fired in coordinated waves, saturating the most sophisticated naval air defense system ever deployed and finding through the mathematical inevitability of volume, combined with precision the gaps that no finite defensive architecture can eliminate. 6,000 sailors missing in the waters of the Persian Gulf. The human dimension of this catastrophe is so vast that the institutional machinery of American military communications has not yet found the language to convey it to the public. The silence from the Pentagon in the hours
since the Persian Gulf has become the graveyard of American naval supremacy. Not metaphorically, not theoretically. In operational reality, documented in burning wreckage spread across 40 kilometers of the world's most strategically consequential waterway. What unfolded in the waters off Bandar Abbas in the past 24 hours represents the single most devastating blow to American military power since the Second World War. 18 warships, destroyers, cruisers, amphibious assault vessels, and support platforms that represent the concentrated expression of decades of American naval investment now sit on the floor of the Persian Gulf or list burning and uncontrollable on its surface. 12,000 American military personnel cut off from resupply, surrounded by Iranian naval and ground forces. Their chain of command severed by the destruction of the command and control infrastructure that connected them to CENTCOM, have laid down their weapons. The instrument of this destruction was the Zulfiqar, Iran's domestically developed precision ballistic missile system, built under sanctions, refined through years of testing and operational deployment, and fired last night in a salvo of 3,000 rounds from launch complexes concentrated around Bandar Abbas and dispersed across the Iranian coastline of the Strait of Hormuz. 3,000 missiles fired in carefully sequenced waves designed to overwhelm every layer of American naval air defense simultaneously.
Solo esperan la orden. El ataque a Europa ya se ha decidido. Falta confirmar el cómo y el cuándo. Rusia va por los verdaderos perros del infierno. En Moscú ya hablan de objetivos legítimos fuera del frente. Europa como gran objetivo. Desde la Duma estatal, un renombrado miembro del Comité de Defensa revela algo que estremece a la OTAN. Solo esperan la orden del comandante supremo para implementar una decisión que se tomó hace mucho, la de atacar al viejo continente. Esta información aparece luego de la difusión de una lista de 24 instalaciones vinculadas a la producción de drones para Ucrania, esparcidas en la región.